Go back into South Bend's history. 20 years, 50 years, 100 years, and what do you see? You see groups of people working to bring change to this city. They had different ideas of what that change should be. They didn't always agree. Yet, in every decade, there were groups of people for whom positive change was their life's work. This podcast, South Bend's Own Words, features the voices of people who helped make the city change. We'll share clips from the oral histories done by the Indiana University South Bend Civil Rights Heritage Center that tell a more complete history of the city. It's the story of many cultures, not just one. It's the story of South Bend. Jack Reed was about 4 or 5 years old when his mother moved him from Tennessee to South Bend. She worked hard cleaning other people's homes. From that, Jack absorbed a strong desire to work. The job he desired most was as a state police officer. The Indiana State Police, however, did not hire African Americans. Throughout his life, like so many other people, Jack absorbed blatant and subtle discriminating treatment. Also, he found allies that boosted and supported him as he tried, in his own way, to make things different. That included serving as the first African American Battalion Chief in the South Bend Fire Department. Later, Jack got an offer from Mayor Joe Kernan to serve on a greater scale in his administration. Jack took that offer and even stayed on with the transition to Mayor Steve Leucke. Now in an office atop the county city building, Jack had a unique view of how the city worked and tried to support its people. In 2001, IU South Bend student Greg Balue and Civil Rights Heritage Center Director Les Lamon sat down with Jack Reed. They talked about Jack's experiences with racism in the city, and in spite of his treatment, how he made his way up through multiple levels of city service.
You were born in
Brownsville, Tennessee.
Mm-hmm. And when did you move up here?
I was born in 34, so we probably moved here in about 38 or 39. My mother did day work. That's about all she could do. She wasn't very well educated, making 35, 50 cents an hour, walking to work, cleaning homes, and didn't have to lose her self-respect in order to do so. And that was just a blessing for my sisters and myself, realizing that. Mm-hmm. It was a struggle.
Your father wasn't with you?
No, my mother and father divorced after a fashion. Then it was just my mom and my 2 sisters and myself. And I worked since I was 12 years old. I've worked 2 jobs since I was 12 years old, up until 1987. And had to bring all my money home all the time. I couldn't spend a dime. Cutting grass and pulling weeds from peppermint fields and every kind of job you could possibly think. I worked 3 jobs at one time just to make ends meet, really.
Did, when you moved, was it always into black neighborhoods?
No, not necessarily. At one time I spoke Hungarian pretty well. Really, my best buddy was Pisarroka, Steve, and his mother didn't speak English. No, it was an integrated neighborhood pretty much most of my life, really. I don't know that I've ever lived in a predominantly black neighborhood, other than now. I don't know that I ever have. There were neighborhoods I would go into, like when I was cutting grass or something like that, they would use that N-word, and then I'd, freeze up and keep walking and go ahead and cut the grass and walk back home or ride my bike or whatever, and, that happened.
Do you remember the first time you had a black teacher?
I don't know that I ever had a black teacher, to be honest with you.
Is that right?
Yeah, because I went to predominantly white schools. I went to Elder, went to Franklin. After Elder burned down, I went to Franklin, then to Riley.
When did you graduate from high school?
53. And there were only maybe 4 blacks in the school, and that was the most that had been there, I guess, since the school had been built. And I'll be honest with you, no problems at all. No problems at all. The only problems I ever had in school, I played ball for Riley, and we played down in Evansville, Indiana, and they made me aware, there were 2 of us, myself and had a black manager. You will not be able to stay in the hotel with the other players. You'll have to stay with a black family. So
no problem. 1953.
1952.
It's interesting. I was coaching basketball in the mid-60s with an integrated team and had some similar, I was in the South, of course, and had some similar experiences 10 years later.
I mean, when people, think about the South and all the problems they've had here, we've had a lot of problems here. I took a few notes like myself. I can remember a time right here in South Bend that I couldn't even get insurance because of my color. Housing was a big problem. I can remember when I was on the fire department in 1960 that I had called a realtor about a house on Blaine Street. I'll never forget it. And he said, "It's a very lovely brick home, Mr. Reed. I'll be more than happy to talk to you about it. When can we get together and talk?" And I told him what day I'd be at the fire station. And his last words were, and I'll never forget the way he said it, he said, "Maybe there's something I ought to tell you." I said, "What's that, sir?" "There's a colored family that lives a couple of doors down." And I said, "Sir, I don't know that would be a problem for me. I like to think that I'm not prejudiced. I don't have a problem with that." He said, "Okay, I just thought I'd let you know that." Brugner's Pool Room, I can remember being asked to leave there back in the 50s. Leonard Smith, he's an educator. They were in there shooting pool, and I just asked the gentleman, I said, "Well, sir, we have a right to stay in here and shoot pool." He picked up a cue stick and swung at me. Oh, yeah.
Do you remember places that you didn't go to eat or that you weren't welcome?
So there was a restaurant, on North Michigan Street. God, I just don't remember the name of it. The word had gotten out that black folks weren't welcome there, and I never made an attempt to go, really. But I don't remember what it was, a Philadelphia.
Well, I was going to say, I've heard that Philadelphia
I believe that's what it was.
was one that did not, and that was essentially candy, ice cream, sweet shop.
Right.
Did you have any places that had posted that
blacks not allowed.
Yeah,
no,
the version
no.
of whites only that you had in
No.
the South. So this was all informal.
Yes, very much so. The natatorium, I can remember as a youngster, we could swim there one night a week.
Was this posted, and was it kids in general, or was it just black?
I don't know that it was posted. It was just something that we knew, because if you tried to get in any other night, you weren't allowed to go in.
Would there be any whites swimming on the night that you were there?
I don't recall any, no. And then there was a beach, and they actually told us. I was standing right there. I was with a police officer and our families. "Sir, are you sorry we can't let you in?" I said, "May I ask you why?" "We just don't allow coloreds in here."
Would you ever go back to the pool room or the beach or places like that when you had been told that you weren't welcome?
No. And what I really wanted to do less was go on the police. On the state police. And I was turned down. I was working at Gilbert's clothing store during high school, and what happened was that Paul Gilbert was trying to see to it that I got on, and he got a phone call from Indianapolis, and I was still working at the store. At that time, he had extensions, and he said, "Jack, get on the other line. I think we have some good news." I got on the other line, and the attorney that he was talking about Mr. Jack Reed, blah, blah, and so forth. He meets all this, and would be a great candidate for the state police, but to be honest with you, Mr. Gilbert, we are not ready for a colored state policeman. Of course, he had no idea I was on the other end of the phone, and of course, Mr. Gilbert had no idea they were going to say that. Otherwise, he wouldn't have put me on the phone. You know the thing that bothers me the most at 66 years of age, that I will go to my grave never understanding or wondering why? Because when things happen to me, I don't have the satisfaction or any type of barometer to know, is it because of my color or because I'm an individual. Now, common sense will tell me that every time something happens, it is because of color. I know this, but I don't have any way of being able to distinguish one from the other, and it's frustrating. That's one of the most frustrating things in life for me at 66 years of age, that I never have that satisfaction. I'll give you a good example, if I may. A year or so ago, my wife and I were at Martin's on a Saturday, like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. She had gone in the store. She'd go in. I said, "No, I'll just sit here in the truck, wait for you." There was a lady sitting right across from us, from my truck. There were 3 individuals got out of 3 different cars. They were not people of color. Walked right by her car, close enough to touch it, and she looked at him. After about 10 minutes, I said, "I think I'll go get a donut." I've jogged, so hey, I can afford to have a donut. Got out of my truck, walked towards her car, not going to be close enough to touch it, and guess what she did? You better believe it. She locked her doors.
Yep.
So, these are the kind of things about. But let me tell you what else happened. So I shared it with my wife, and she said, well, Jack, you've had a lot worse things. I said, I understand that, Mary, but God, this day and age, hey, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So thanks to my mom, when I say you build on the positive things, that Monday came to work here in the County Civic Building, and I had to stop on the second floor to do something for a senior citizen. There was a lady, not of color, and a little girl on the elevator. And I took my cap on and I said, good morning. And the lady said, good morning. And the little girl smiled. She didn't say anything. But I knew that child was not afraid of me. Pretty soon she spoke. And she said, Mister, you want to see my 2 babies? I said, well, sure. Gentlemen, she opened up this little blanket, and it was a black doll and a white doll. One was Mary, one was Nancy. I'll never forget it. And she kissed both of them on the cheek at the same time and talked about her babies. Then they got off on the 11th or 12th floor, and she said, sir, have a nice day. I said, you too, ma'am. So I shared that with my wife and some friends. I said, that's what you have to do. Build on those positive things. When you have these negative things that happen in your life, you have to build on positive things because they're there.
You joined the fire department in 1960?
1960, April 1st, 1960.
Were there many blacks on there at the time?
I was the 4th black to come on the job. The first one had a lot of problems. I didn't have near the problems that the first one had, but I did have some problems. The biggest problem with me was that they didn't realize I was my own man. I'm not a follower. I mean, it's just like if Steve Leucke told me to jump off this 14th floor building, I'd tell him what he needed to do. If you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And that kind of created a problem, and I questioned things. Why? I can remember one time I'd been on the job maybe a few years, and one of the pump companies, I was on a pump company, it was in the wintertime, cold, and we were locked in. We had our hose picked up, and the main company had a lot of holes out there. So I went over and started rolling hose. Well, when I got back to the truck, and my officer, one of the guys said, we don't do things like that. So what do you mean? Every company takes care of its own hose. I said, well, common sense would tell you that if I help them, if we all help them, we can go back that much sooner. That's not the way it's done. Well, I didn't do it for a while, and then pretty soon I read the rule book, and I didn't see anything in the rule book that said I couldn't. So I continued doing it. So it didn't make me real popular.
What did you end up as?
Battalion Chief.
Huh.
First riding chief in the history of South Bend.
You didn't have to be popular.
What do you think accounted? What took place between 1957, 58, when you got turned down for the state police, in 1976, when Pete Nemeth felt comfortable appointing you chief, battalion chief? What caused that? What took place in the meantime there that changed the environment in South Bend?
Personally, Les, I think, I always say there's 2 things that we people of color, whether it be Hispanic, black, or whatever the case might be, have to have. First of all, there has to be an awareness, and I don't give a dang how much education you get or how qualified you are. Those are 2 ingredients that you have to have, an awareness and the power structure willing to do something about it. The second thing that has to happen is the power structure has to be aware of this awareness and willing to do something about it. I think what made them aware, realizing that being the type of people that they are, it was an injustice.
It seems like those kinds of things, there's a generational difference.
That's right.
It's kind of, maybe it's like the little girl that you were talking about. She's, my guess is, color doesn't mean the same thing to her with those 2 little babies as it might have even meant to her mother, but certainly not what it did to her grandmother.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You got to believe that.
and I do, Les. Like I say, we were taught that, that when these negative things happen, you just have to build on the positive. Sometimes the positive thing is just being able to get out of bed every morning. That's a very positive thing, as I'm saying. They're there. You have to look for them. You just need to look.
When did you come into, you probably, I'm sure it was when you retired, but that you came into city administration? It wasn't under Peter Nemeth, was it?
No, it was under Joe Kernan.
Yeah, I thought it was under Joe.
Right.
Yeah.
And I was just very apprehensive about wanting to do this. And my wife asked me, she was very disappointed, but I'll know one of these days. And one morning I woke up to get ready to go jogging. So when I got back that afternoon, I said, man, I think I know how I'm going to take this job. She says, why? I said, because it's an opportunity that, won't be afforded too many blacks. And I said, for 2 reasons. I said, we'll show people that if given an opportunity, we can do anything anyone else can do if we're afforded that opportunity. then hoping and praying that it'll make it somewhat easier for the next young man and woman coming along. And the stipulation was that if Joe and I couldn't get along or didn't make it, or if I didn't like it, I could go back to the fire department. And there's a lot of ways that you can fight the civil rights things, just to, like I say, learn to sell yourself. I'm just a firm believer in that. Without people thinking that you're an Uncle Tom, if you understand what I'm saying.
You ever been called an Uncle Tom?
Yeah. Yeah. I have it to happen up here once in a while. Not so much lately. That when I first got here in '88, with people of color didn't quite understand. They just felt that by the nature of my job that all the wrongs that have happened in the past, I can make them right. And I've had people come here, sit just where you're sitting now, with problems or situations that just nothing I could do about it because maybe it was against the law. Yeah. I've had people of color, well, if you can't do me any good, what in the hell are you doing here then? And it hurts. Yeah. But I understand their frustrations. I understand their frustrations. And I have someone I have to answer to. I've had calls, I want you to fire this person. And that's not my job to hire or fire. Or my son's in jail and you don't have connection, you can't help me here, or whatever the case might be, and just politely explain to them and hope they understand. Yeah. My mother had what she called the 3 C's. We couldn't complain, criticize, or condemn. And she lived by that. But she always said there's one C that you can use. What's that? Learn to care about yourself, your sisters, your family, your fellow man, whatever the case might be.
South Bend's Own Words was created by Kevin Tidmarsh and me, George Garner. This episode was produced by Donald Britton from the Ernestine M. Racklin School of the Arts at IU South Bend, and by me through the Civil Rights Heritage Center. Visit us and learn how IU South Bend students inspired the transformation of a once segregated South Bend swimming pool. We give guided tours and offer public events that show how the history of oppression echoes through the city today. See and hear more history, plan your visit, or share your thoughts about this episode, all at crhc.iusb.edu.